So Rama's entry, getting ready to leave into the forest. This is a time when any sadhaka, we will all come to this at some point in our journey. We will all have to face the decision to basically turn our back on the world and dive deep into our sadhana, deep into our practice, deep into knowing ourselves, that slaying of our demons. So we have to know our demons before we can slay them. So at some point in our practice, the world will become the world will just not have, the world's like this shiny new nickel out there, and it's always kind of holding sway over us. It's kind of always pulling us to it. But at some point in the journey, it just won't pull it. We won't be pulled towards it anymore. We won't be pulled towards the family. We won't be pulled towards having a career. We won't be pulled towards having children. We won't be pulled towards whatever it is that you find yourself pulled towards. At some point, you'll have to sever those bonds. You'll have to sever, and by bonds, I mean those attachments that we have to it. Because we all will have duties, and especially during the Kali Yuga, we have duties that we have to perform, but we need to learn how to perform those duties skillfully, and we need how to perform those duties with love. And until we go into our forest, until we go deep into the forest of our mind where those demons are there residing, we won't, at some point we'll plateau with the progress we're making. So if we don't push forward, we're just going to stagnate and we'll become complacent again. So this is where the spiritual journey, there's no rest. We have to constantly be ready to move forward. So Rama going into the world signifies that he's ready to step away from the world. He's ready to, and there's so much beauty to just that part of it. Because he realizes that the world is empty. I mean, if you think about one of your things that you achieved, that you got, that made you happy. Maybe it was getting a new car. Maybe it was getting a new job. Maybe it was having a child. Maybe it was moving to a new house. Whatever it was, how long did that happiness really stay? Did it last? At some point, we become disappointed and the car breaks down and we have to get new brakes, or we have to get new tires, or we crash the car, or whatever it is, right? Or we have to get, the kids grow up and they become assholes. And that could be us to our own parents, right? The parents looked so forward to having us, and now they're like, oh my God. Look at this child. They show no gratitude towards me. They don't even want to come around and hang out with me anymore, whatever it is. So all these things that we put all of this weight and emphasis on, at some point leads us to disappointment. At some point, this is where relationships, if you put all of your stock into one person making you happy, at some point that person is going to fail miserably. Not because the person failed, but because the mind, the way that we perceive that person. The person could have said something and it wasn't what you wanted to hear at that point. And so now that person is a jerk. So all of these things that we give so much power to in the world, at some point we do have to turn and we have to walk away from. And the problem with this is that as long as we keep putting power into these illusions, then they keep us trapped in the cycle, the transmigration of the soul. They keep us trapped coming back. Because say that, this is, sometimes in my head, I question, is it better to have everyone just meet with so much success and then they realize that success is empty and then they just don't want it anymore? Or is it, if someone fails, do they realize like, oh gosh, so this wasn't really what I wanted anyway? It's all just based on our own individual minds, because what if someone says, hey, I wanted this in this lifetime, and, they get it and they realize that doesn't make them happy, but then do they say, oh, what I really wanted was this on my deathbed? So then does that desire keep them coming back? So it's better just to work on the viveka and the vairagya and discerning and just pulling everything in so that we have one. Because remember, God is so kind, and every desire that we have will ultimately have to be fulfilled. And it doesn't matter how small it is. If we had a desire to have a vanilla ice cream cone, if we don't weed that desire out, we will have to come back and have a vanilla ice cream cone. If we had a desire to be president of our class in high school, or if we had a desire to be popular in high school, if we have whatever it is, all of these desires have to be fulfilled. So if we can start looking at all of these desires and discriminating and examining, right, going into our forest, then we can start eliminating all those desires and say, no, that wouldn't make me happy at all. It wouldn't make me happy if I had a job making whatever, $5 million a year. That's not what's going to make me happy. And then we start eliminating those. What is going to make me happy is knowing who I am. Deep knowing, having a very intimate relationship with my inner dweller. So then we can start eliminating those desires, and then we don't have to keep coming back to fulfill these little petty things. So now as we move into this, I want to make sure I stay on target here with a few things. But anyway, so we have to, at some point, like I said, we have to walk away from the world. Then this part is, this can only happen when we get to understand ourselves. So this is part of understanding the mind. So the mind has 4 functions. And the mind, that's the manas, the chitta, the ahamkara, and the buddhi, right? So the manas is that the screen of our thoughts, the screen of the images that we have. And we're not going to get, because I want to talk mainly about buddhi today. The chitta is the storehouse of all of our past impressions. The ahamkara is the I maker. I like this, I don't like that. That I am. I want this, I don't want that. Buddhi, so buddhi has 3 categories. So buddhi is our discriminating faculty. This is supposed to be our higher mind, our discriminating faculty, but there are 3 categories in our buddhi, and it's the sattvic, the rajasic, and the tamasic. So if the buddhi if it's laden with rajasic tendencies, the buddhi is not going to be a very good discriminating counselor for us. If the buddhi is laden with tamasic tendencies, the heaviness of the tamasic energy, it's not going to be a very good discriminating factor for us. So there are different. I want to talk just a minute. Linda and I were talking briefly before class about a group of people that, if you have people that they're doing some yoga at Gym City Grocery. What is the name of it? Gym City Market. And so they're doing some yoga classes there, and the yoga classes seem pretty well attended. So that's wonderful, because one, they're bringing in something that could ultimately bring more awareness to folks about their diet. So then they suddenly start thinking, oh, wait, maybe I want to eat this cucumber instead of this, I don't know, sausage. Whatever the 2 options might be. But they might go for fresher food, because suddenly now they're starting to pay more attention to the body. So they're moving from a rajasic tamasic thing and moving into, and that's one way. This is the beautiful thing about, so when we think about the 3 categories of buddhi, right, and the 3 categories in the body, but we can change those. One of the ways that we can change them is based on things that we eat. So if you have yoga coming into an area that yoga normally isn't taught, because unfortunately in America, yoga is mainly for the upper middle class white women. So you have a lot of minorities that could really benefit from yoga that aren't getting it because there's such a high price tag on yoga. It's one of those things Swami Satchidananda said at one of his satsangs, since when did spirituality start costing money? But the problem is it's not spirituality. They're teaching bodybuilding and things of that nature, calling it yoga. So, but anyway, so back to these three categories. So that's a really great thing that is happening at this Gym City Market is that people are coming there to take yoga classes that maybe typically wouldn't, and then suddenly maybe their diet starts to shift. So then suddenly they start getting a more sattvic diet, which will then impact the way they think. So it's a really beautiful way of introducing and getting more sattva into society. There's Mason. Hello. So anyway, so the sattvic mind knows what one should do and what one should not do. And this is very, very, very important, right? The aspirant, when the sattvic mind is the dominant one, the aspirant knows what to do that's going to dispel bondage. The sattvic mind knows what to eat, which is what we were just talking about. The sattvic mind knows who to associate with, what you watch, what you drink, the friendships you cultivate, how you spend your time, what you talk about. The sattvic mind will know all of these things. So start examining, and one thing that we need to be very, very clear about. So when we start examining our sattva and our rajas and our tamas, these are not ways that we create whipping posts for ourselves. They are signposts, they are guideposts to show us, oh, whoa, I didn't realize it was pretty heavy. I'm rajasic in the way I think about this. What can I do to change that? Maybe it is starting with changing the diet. Maybe it is starting with, okay, you know what? I'm going to drink 1 more cup of water a day. Or I'm going to eat 3 more fruits this week instead of 3 candy bars or instead of 3 protein bars. So we start being more mindful of all of those things. But the sattvic mind just naturally knows what to do. It's that yoga is skillfulness in action. The rajasic mind is always seeking worldly pleasures and motivated by selfish desires. The rajasic mind always wants the fruits of their labor, whether it be praise, that adoration, money, whatever it is, they always want the fruits of their labor. However it looks, they want it. They want to be acknowledged for what they have done. And they'll take acknowledgement for things that they haven't done. So start examining once again those rajasic tendencies, right? Within ourselves. Do I jump to take praise for something that I've done? Do I, what's that phrase? Throw someone under the bus, right? To get something that I want. They want validation and they're seeking validation all the time. They are constantly seeking pleasures. This is also a problem with activists tend to be very rajasic. And that's why activism will never work. Because you have rajas meeting rajas. And that is just going to create more tension, more you see my side. I'm doing the righteous thing here. The other person is, I'm doing the righteous thing here. So hate and negativity and all that activity, they will never create peace, contentment. This is why what we do not need is social reform. Social reform has never worked. On average, it works about a generation and then things fall apart again. So what we need is inner transformation. If social reform worked, we could look back through history and things would not be the way they are today. So obviously, social reform doesn't work. Activism doesn't work. We need to transform. We need to change our hearts. We need to change our minds. and then things will change. So then the tamasic mind, the tamasic buddhi, right, just can't discriminate between bondage and freedom, independence. They have no discriminating factor whatsoever. Think about addictions, right? The tamasic mind just doesn't care about the outcome, right? Kake, she didn't care about the outcome. She represented Tamas. She didn't care that it was going to kill the king. She didn't care that everything was just going to be up in turmoil. A tamasic mind, if we're tamasic buddhi, we don't care what happens. We're too lethargic to give a care about it. A tamasic person mind has no courage whatsoever, no courage to look at their demons, right? That's why they don't care what the outcomes are. They don't care what the outcomes are. They don't care who is hurt in the process. It doesn't matter. They're too lazy and too lethargic. They have no courage to look at themselves. So if we think about this addict, right? An addict only cares about their addiction. They only care about getting whatever it is, their next drink, their next drug, their next shopping trip, whatever that they are addicted to. And one of the scariest things that we can be addicted to is attention. And we can be attention addicts. That's why it's very dangerous in the Kali Yuga. You have the preachers and the teachers. We need to be really mindful of our own behaviors, because that's stealing, and that's very, very dangerous. Because when we steal energy from someone, the karma, the bonds, the things that tie us, right? Those fish hooks that tie us together, those karmic bonds, are much more dangerous with the subtle things when we steal things like energy from people, meaning attention. So this addict, and this is part of the reason why the 12 steps, when the addict has to look at themselves and then they have to go make amends for what they've done, because they have to acknowledge, right? I have to look at my demons. I have to look at what I've done. I have to take responsibility for what I have done. And that's going into the forest. If I can't look at what it is that I need to eradicate, I'm never going to eradicate it. So say I have a cancerous tumor growing on me and I do nothing about it. Because I do nothing about it doesn't mean that the cancerous tumor is not going to grow. The cancerous tumor is still going to grow. And at some point is going to be so big that there's no turning back. So this is what happens with us, right? We don't look at our behaviors, or we hide them. We're not honest about them. We keep them swept under the rug. But at some point, they will come to a head. At some point, we have to remove them. We have to go into the forest. We must go into the forest to get rid of those things. So we need to be honest. That's what I was saying earlier. These are not whipping posts for ourselves. It's about being honest and being okay. Okay, whoa, this makes me angry. Why does this make me angry? Because I thought that I should have been treated this way, or I thought this should have happened this way, whatever it is. But I have to look at myself. I have to examine myself. I have to examine those behaviors, because I need to get rid of that cancer, because next time it's going to be even harder to get rid of. Which is why we are so incredibly blessed and lucky to be on this journey. Because we have the potential to really look at ourselves and make some inroads here. Make some strides. I don't care if we take one legitimate step forward in this lifetime, then this has not been a wasted lifetime. So we need to look at that hard stuff inside of ourselves. We need to examine, where am I Rajasic? Where am I Tamasic? Where am I Sattvic? Then if you go to this, the more Sattvic you are, right, the more dispassion and discrimination you also have, which is key to everything. Because if we don't have that discrimination, the tamasic mind, the rajasic mind, right, we will constantly do what it is that we have always done. Rinse and repeat. We're going to do the same thing next time. So we stay stuck in this cycle until at some point we wake up and we realize, wow, this hasn't worked for me. This control drama that I have used to manipulate others to get what I want, it doesn't work for me. The lies that I tell to hide, thinking that no one knows who I am. Others may not know who you are, but you know who knows who you are? Your inner dweller. You may be lying to your conscious mind, which is making you weak, but your inner dweller, nothing gets past your inner dweller. Your inner dweller will keep track of absolutely everything. That is why everything that happens is just and righteous, because God is within us keeping track of everything. So, of course, something is going to happen that, well, that's just our karma coming through, because we have to pay back everything. We have to reap everything that we sow. I personally think that if the world, we go around, I'm probably jumping ahead a bit here, but with the whole, so Rama, when he leaves, right, this is what it's teaching us is the whole, there's no difference between honor and dishonor. There's no difference between birth and death. There's no difference between gain and loss. There's no difference. This is why when this whole part of the story just has always resonated so much with me, because wow, what is he saying here? For us, he walks away from the coronation as happy as he can be. He walks away from being crowned king, having servants take care of him, getting everything, and he's as happy as he can be. Because at some point, we will get to that state where there is no difference between profit and loss. There is no difference between birth and death. Swamiji wasn't afraid to die because he knew it was on the side. There was no difference. We get excited at the birth of someone and we get sad at the death of someone. And I've said this before, shouldn't we be, when somebody's born, it's like, oh shit, you didn't make it, did you? You had to come back. That's so sad. Join the rest of us. And when someone dies, we should, great, they worked through whatever karma, hopefully next time they're going to make it better, or maybe they've made it through to the other side. But we have this duality that we put on everything. But this is a part of the problem, because we live in this world of duality. We're looking for God in the world, but God is the world. I mean, I think this is something I've been thinking about a lot. This is really important. I'm going to say it again. We're looking for God in the world, but God is the world. What if you looked at everything, and thought, that's God? A child dying, that's God. Someone winning the lottery, that's God. Whatever it is, someone getting a DUI, that's God. For whatever it is that person has to work out. Because God is the world. Our inner dweller is inside of us, making sure that everything that happens is just and righteous and is happening exactly at the right time, exactly how it should happen, when it should happen. God is the world. This is part of Tantra. Tantrics, when we move towards the whole Tantric philosophy, there is no duality. This is how we become balanced. This is how we become neutral. This is how we become, where the world, everything is beautiful. Everything is, it's all good. One of those things that people say. They say it and they don't believe it. But if we're at this place where God is the world, then everything is all good. Where is bad if God is the world? Where is evil if God is the world? Bad, evil comes from the duality of our own minds because we think profit's great and we think loss is bad. We think birth is wonderful, we think death is sad. We think insults, oh, yuck, praise, yay. We live in this world of duality. Swamiji wasn't upset when he left the ashram in Nepal. The hour before he left, he was still taking care of the grounds, making sure it was beautiful for the people who came after. He was still giving practices before he died. He wasn't sad that he had cancer. They say that a saint, you can tell, right, a saint because they're willing to take the pain and suffering from others. That's, I think about when Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they have done. Was he saying, I'll take their karma here because they don't know what they've done here? I'll take their karma for that. Maybe that bit is where the Christians have gotten it confused and saying that he's going to take it for everyone. So, so think about yourself. Would you be willing to take the pain and suffering from someone that you know? What about someone that really did you wrong, that you perceived as wrong? Would you take their pain and suffering for the karma that they did to you, that you took, that was what you earned? Those are things to think about in your own minds, right? Would I be willing to take, if I, thinking about what someone has done to me and knowing that whatever karma, right, is going to happen because karma is always just and righteous, would I take their punishment, so to speak, and be okay with that? Because was that what Jesus was doing? I don't know. These are things that I just think about. But in my own personal life, would I have been up on the cross and said, forgive them, Father, for they know what they've done? Or would have been like, Peter, you need to rally some troops and you need to smite these fuckers. They've done me wrong. So, we need to evaluate ourselves. If someone does something that you perceive as bad, and this the whole thing about forgiveness, this is, what are we forgiving? That's my question. What are we forgiving? Somebody is giving back to me what I've earned. Why do I need to forgive them for that? You know who I need to forgive them? Is myself for doing that to someone else in a previous lifetime or this lifetime. So who do I have to forgive outside of me? I have to forgive me for pulling those moves that were not righteous and just. And I need to give gratitude and thank that person that brought that karma to me. Thank you for allowing me to purge that. Thank you for being the bringer of that karma to me in this lifetime. Man, that was great. I didn't know I could get through it, but I did get through it. I did that to someone else. Let me forgive myself for being that mean, cruel, whatever person it was. Let me love the person who brought the karma to me. Let me forget myself and let me love them. Because that's God, right? God is the world. So if God is the world, all of us in the world are aspects of God, the Atman. It's just really incredible. And this is when we think about this whole thing with Rama, right? And we think about the buddhi and the three categories of buddhi in ourselves. Start examining your interactions with others, but with yourself. Why do I say that? Why do I constantly do that? Why do I need this? Constantly. Get in there. We have to get into that forest. Even if it's just one step into the forest in this lifetime. Let's make that step in there. So the mind, right? If we're going back to some of these different things. So the sattvic mind is just transparent. It's just content. It's motivated by spiritual pursuits. It's motivated by a spiritual practice. That's what a sattvic mind is. A rajasic mind is hyperactive. It's constantly thinking. It's worldly. It's constantly worried. The tamasic mind is just, it's unclear, it's heavy, there's no motivation, it's sluggish, can't make a decision. The sattvic emotions are faith. And I love thinking about this is faith as an emotion, right? It's very powerful. Devotion as an emotion. Detachment as an emotion. These are ways that Swamiji described these. Rajasic emotions, desire, anger, hypocrisy. Tamasic, stubbornness, hopelessness. How much faith do you have? Examine that. What is it? The power, the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains, right? Isn't that something like that? Oh, but how much faith do you have? And if you look around and say, God is the world, shouldn't that give us so much faith? Holy cow, this is God. Why should I not have faith that God's going to know exactly what should happen, when should happen, and how it should happen? That's faith. It's easy to have faith when life is good, right? When we're getting everything that we want it. Well, we've got lots of money coming in, and we've got the perfect partner, and we've got whatever it is that we've desired. We're going on the perfect holidays, and we're doing all of these things, all of these distractions, right? Then we think, oh yeah, God is great. But can we have faith that when our world seems to be tumbling in around us, this is God. This is exactly what is supposed to happen. I don't understand why it's happening, but I have faith that it is happening exactly the way it should happen. Then life can become beautiful. Happiness. Sattvic happiness arises from inner discrimination. When we know, you know what, if I do this, it's going to create more bondage in my life. So why would I want to do that? It's going to create more attachments. It's going to create more aversions. Why would I do that? Rajasic is that overly sensual. And not just, it's all of our senses, right? That sex, the food, all of those senses. Rajasic people tend to be competitive, which is why they're willing to throw people under the bus so they can get ahead. The tamasic people, just lack of enthusiasm. They're melancholy. They're just, like I said, the tamasic person just doesn't even care about the outcome. It doesn't matter because they don't have the courage to look at anything about it. So as we move forward with this is the part of, pardon me, I'm at this really small bit and it's awkward. But at some point when we move into this part of our practice, right, what we need Our two companions? Who? Sita and Lakshman. So when we move into the forest, I didn't word that very well. So when we move into the forest, we have to have two constant companions, Sita and Lakshman. Intellect and willpower. In the intellect, and I'm talking about knowledge. I'm not talking about information intellect. Riley and I were just having a conversation about intellect. You can quote all the scriptures. You can know exactly where they are. You can know it from the Quran. You can know it from the Torah. You can know it from the Bible. You can know it from the Upanishads. But if you are not looking at yourself and changing, then what is that information doing for you? So we're talking about that intellect, like Ms. Conway just said, of discrimination, of vairagya. We have to have that intellect where we can discriminate. This creates bondage. This creates freedom. We need Sita and we need Lakshman with us. We need that willpower to say, I'm going to do this, and I do it. So when you think about you entering into your forest, do you have intellect? Do you have Sita with you? Do you have willpower? How strong is your willpower? This goes back to when we talk about sattvic. How can we create more sattva in our lives? This is so we can start on that gross level. How can I get more sattva in my life? Well, I can change the things I eat. Are they more sattvic? Like I said, make a thing to yourself, a resolve, your inner determination, a resolve that I'm going to eat 3 more fruits this week. I'm going to drink 1 more glass of water today. I'm going to eat my last meal by 6 p.m. I'm going to make my meals fresh this week. I'm not going to eat frozen foods all week. Whatever it is, I'm going to go outside instead of online to look at whatever it is you're looking at, YouTube, social media, whatever it is. I'm going to go sit outside. And we can get stuck. This is where information seeking can be very dangerous. Yogananda said, I can't remember the exact hours, but for every hour you read, you need to have 3 hours, I think it is, in contemplation. But right, we can be these ferocious readers and read everything, but so what? If I can't digest what I've read, it has not served me one bit. So read something and spend time contemplating it, evaluating, really looking at it. So the sattvic stuff, focus on your breath. That's a great way to bring sattvic energy into your body, into your minds. So be mindful of all these things. Be mindful of what you're doing. Is it sattvic? Is it rajasic? Is it tamasic? How can I bring more sattva into my life? Right? Because then when we get to that final place, this is where what we just said, there is no duality. Everything is perfect because it is God. But as long as I'm living with a rajasic mind or a tamasic mind, things are going to be ugly. I'm always going to be seeking something else. I can create chaos all around me, but just keep walking on because I don't care, right? I think I don't care. My Atman cares because at some point I will have to pay all of that back. So anyway, to close, just think about and analyze, maybe spend some time once a day and analyze, where have I been sattvic? Where have I been rajasic? Where have I been tamasic? Because the mind, to understand the mind, we need to understand what guna is the predominant guna in us. And we do need some, like you need some tamas, right? Tamas is that energy that makes us sleep. Tamas is also that energy that grounds us. But if we want it sattva tamas, because if it is just tamasic and tamasic energy, that grounding energy just becomes making us very stubborn and very resistant. So we want to feel grounded, but we don't want to feel stubborn. So start looking at it. Is this a tamasic energy that is more sattvic, or is it a tamasic energy that is more tamas or more rajasic? You have to really look deep. This is why Rama went into the forest, right? He wasn't exiled into the city next door to them. He was exiled into the forest. He spent 14 years in the forest. He had to go deep into the forest. We have to go deep inside ourselves to know ourselves. So we have to go deep inside ourselves to know where we are with this, with these three categories of our buddhi, so that we can finally get to that place where God is the world.